If someone doesn't respect you, why are you still giving them access to your energy? You're not a doormat. You're not a backup plan. You are the main character. And it's about time you stop tolerating disrespect like it's love in disguise. This world won't always hand you kindness, but it will always mirror the way you treat yourself. So what are you allowing in this moment? Make a choice. Not just to walk away from disrespect, but to walk towards your power. Let's talk about it. 5 fierce, unshakable ways to handle people who just don't respect you. These are not just tips, these are your new standards. Don't argue. Just upgrade. Because when someone disrespects you, it's not a cue to defend yourself. It's a signal to redefine yourself. Every time you waste your breath explaining your worth to someone who refuses to see it, you delay your own growth. The truth is, not everyone deserves a seat at your table, especially if all they ever do is question the value of your presence. Think about it like this. Have you ever seen a diamond explaining why it shines? No. It just sparkles. Loudly, quietly, unapologetically. That's you. Stop letting people drag you into low energy battles that dim your brilliance. You don't have to clap back, react, or even raise your voice. Your evolution will say everything they need to hear and more. Imagine a woman who just got overlooked for a promotion because her manager didn't take her seriously. Instead, she goes home, updates her resume, applies to 10 companies, builds a personal brand online, and 2 months later, boom, she lands a position twice as powerful in a company that celebrates her voice. That's what I mean when I say, don't argue, just upgrade. In relationships too, the same rule applies. If a partner constantly disrespects your boundaries, mocks your dreams, or talks down to you, arguing won't change them, pleading won't change them. You could cry, scream, explain, forgive over and over, and they'll still do what they've always done. So what do? You stop showing up for the disrespect. You stop feeding their ego with your tears. You focus on becoming the version of yourself that no longer tolerates low vibration love. The day you stop trying to make them see your worth is the day they finally realize what they lost. There's a girl right now in a classroom being mocked for asking too many questions. They call her annoying, they call her extra. She could shut down and stay quiet, or she could double down and keep raising her hand. She keeps learning, growing, sharpening her mind. 10 years later, those same kids are watching her TED Talk. Let that sink in. Growth is the ultimate mic drop. Disrespect can come from anyone, your family, your friends, your coworkers. And sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is go silent. Not weak silent, power silent. The kind of silence that says, I see everything, I'm just not wasting my voice on things that don't elevate me. When you upgrade yourself, when you level up emotionally, mentally, spiritually, they feel it. They might not say it out loud, but trust me, they notice. You weren't born to shrink yourself for people who feel threatened by your glow. You weren't created to argue your value every time someone decides to forget it. So when disrespect knocks, don't open the door with desperation. Open a new chapter instead. A woman once told me that she stopped replying to her ex's disrespectful messages. Not out of pettiness, but because she was too busy building her business. 2 years later, That same man sent her a message. I always knew you'd do big things. She didn't reply. Why would she? She's too high up now to hear the noise below. Let your actions speak so loudly that your doubters have to cover their ears. Let your transformation become your explanation. You don't have to be cruel, arrogant, or loud. You just have to be unavailable to anyone who doesn't see your magic. Don't explain, don't engage, just elevate. Because when you choose to rise instead of argue, you win without even fighting. Disinture is power, not punishment. It's not about being cold. It's about being clear. It's about protecting your peace when someone keeps pushing your boundaries like there. One day she stopped reaching out. No big announcement, no drama, just space, quiet, stillness. A few months later, she looked around and realized her glow was getting stronger. That's what distance does. It detoxes your circle. It silences the noise. It shows you who clapped when you weren't in the room. And maybe you've been in a relationship where you kept making excuses for the disrespect. He's just stressed. She didn't mean it. It's just a bad day. But bad days don't give anyone a license to be toxic. And when the disrespect becomes the pattern, not the exception, you have to choose yourself. You have to say, I deserve more than halfway love. So you step back. Not to hurt them, but to heal you. The silence becomes a sanctuary. The space becomes your mirror. And slowly, your clarity returns. Think about the sun. It doesn't beg anyone to feel its warmth. It doesn't lower itself to shine on those who complain about the heat. It just rises, with or without applause. That's how your energy should be. Strong, certain, unbothered. You don't need to explain why you need space. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply stop showing up where your spirit isn't honored. There's a woman who used to feel guilty for saying no. Guilty for taking breaks. Guilty for creating distance from a toxic sister, a manipulative friend, a draining coworker. But every time she chose to protect her energy, her life got lighter. Her thoughts got clearer. And the people who once demanded her time, they found someone else to feed on. That's the thing about energy vampires. They only stay when you leave the door open. Distance gives you perspective. It's hard to see clearly when you're too close to chaos. When you take a step back, things that once confused you start making perfect sense. That person wasn't complicated. They were selfish. That situation wasn't love. It was control. And now, from a distance, you can breathe without choking on their negativity. You don't owe constant access to people who treat you like an afterthought. You are not a 24/7 emotional rescue service. You are allowed to disconnect from conversations that go nowhere, from people who only call when they need something, from patterns that leave you empty every time. You are allowed to choose silence over shouting, peace over proving, distance over destruction. There's power in not reacting. There's power in letting someone wonder why your energy disappeared. Because people start respecting your presence when they notice your absence. Let them feel the space you once filled. Let them sit in the echo of your silence. You're not being dramatic, you're being deliberate. You're not pushing people away, you're pulling yourself closer to peace. Define your boundaries loudly, not with anger, not with fear, but with unwavering clarity. Because when you whisper your limits, the world pretends it can't hear you. You have to declare who you are and what you will no longer tolerate with your words, your energy, and most importantly, your actions. If you don't draw the line, they'll keep stepping over it like it was never there. You teach people how to treat you by what you allow, by what you respond to, by what you forgive too quickly. And if you're always explaining, always justifying, always bending, they'll never respect the steel in your spine. Boundaries are not walls. They're doors with locks, and you get to choose who walks through them. Loud boundaries don't make you rude. They make you real. There's a woman in the workplace who's always expected to stay late. She's never asked, just assumed. Because she's the nice one, the reliable one. One day she looks in the mirror and says, "Why is my kindness being used as currency to buy my silence?" So the next time they try, she simply says, "I leave at 5. If you need something before then, please let me know in advance." She doesn't yell. She doesn't argue. She just reclaims her time out loud. And the room listens differently when you speak with conviction. In relationships, boundaries are even more vital. If someone jokes about your trauma and you laugh along to keep the peace, that's not peace. That's betrayal of self. If your partner keeps crossing your lines and you keep forgiving without consequence, they're not going to change. They're going to repeat. You have to be brave enough to say that joke is not funny. That tone is not okay. That behavior ends here. And yes, some people will walk away when you raise your standards. But let them. The ones who truly value you won't test your boundaries. They'll respect them. A girl once had a group of friends who constantly made her the punchline. They masked disrespect with, "We're just joking, and don't be so sensitive." But one day, she stood up mid-laugh and said, "I don't find this funny anymore. If this is your idea of friendship, I'm out." And she walked away, heart pounding, hands shaking. But her spirit, it stood taller than ever. Sometimes the loudest boundary is walking out without looking back. Boundaries are not only about saying no, they're about honoring your yes. The yes to peace, the yes to sleep, the yes to real conversations, to deeper connections, to time alone, to self-worth. When you say yes to yourself loudly, you naturally start saying no to anything that makes you question your value. That's power. That's maturity. That's evolution. And let's be clear. People will test you. The moment you start speaking up, someone will say, "You've changed." Don't flinch. Smile. And say, "Yes, I have. And it was long overdue." Growth makes people uncomfortable, especially the ones who benefited from your silence. But you're not here to make everyone comfortable. You're here to be whole. Your energy is currency. Don't spend it on people who treat your time like spare change. If someone gets offended because you set a boundary, that's proof they were benefiting from your lack of one. When you define your boundaries loudly, you're not pushing people away. You're filtering the real from the fake. You're creating space for respect to grow, for your voice to rise, for your life to align with your worth. And the moment you stop apologizing for your limits is the moment you start living in your power. Don't chase closure, choose clarity. Because the truth is, some people will never give you the explanation you deserve. Some situations won't come with a satisfying ending, and some goodbyes won't be wrapped in understanding. If you keep chasing closure, you'll keep running in circles around someone who already walked away. And while you're waiting for their words to set you free, Closure is a myth when it depends on someone else's voice. Clarity, however, is yours to create. You don't need their apology to find your peace. You don't need their guilt to validate your pain. You just need to accept what they showed you. Not what they said, but what they did. Actions don't lie. If they left without explanation, that is the explanation. If they ghosted, if they betrayed, if they chose someone else, that was the answer you were looking for. Sometimes silence screams the truth louder than any conversation ever could. There's a woman who was in a relationship for 4 years. One morning he just stopped calling. No fight, no reason, just disappeared. For months she kept texting, hoping for just one last conversation. But closure never came. And one day, staring at his empty chat window, she realized, I don't need him to close the door when he already walked out. She deleted the number, blocked the ghost, and started writing a new chapter, one where she was the author, not the victim of someone else's silence. That's clarity. It's when you stop knocking on doors that already slammed shut. In friendships, it's the same story. You pour your heart into someone, stand by them, defend them, and the moment you need them, they vanish. You call, no answer. You ask why, no reply. You beg for honesty, but all you get is excuses, or worse, silence. That's when you have to stop chasing the why and start honoring the what. What did their absence teach you? What did their behavior reveal? Sometimes clarity means understanding. They weren't your friend. They were just standing next to you until it no longer served them. People chase closure, thinking it will ease the pain, but often it only reopens the wound. You sit in front of the person who broke you, hoping they'll finally say something that will make it all make sense. But what if they don't? What if their truth is uglier than you imagined? What if they're not sorry, just sorry they got caught? That's why clarity is safer. Clarity is found in you. It's when you tell yourself, I deserve more. I'm not going to chase understanding from someone who couldn't even give me basic respect. Imagine someone stealing your peace and then expecting you to come and ask for it back. No. Reclaim your peace without permission. Say to yourself, this didn't end the way I wanted, but maybe it ended the way I needed. Clarity is a decision, not a conversation. It's choosing to move forward without carrying their silence on your back. It's learning to let go of the need to be understood by someone who was never willing to understand you. There's a girl who kept replaying the last message her ex sent. A short take care after years of love. She kept wondering, how could he let go so easily? Then one day, she answered her own question. Because I was holding on for both of us. That's the moment she stopped waiting for a message that would never come and started crafting a life that didn't need his words to validate her worth. You don't have to beg someone to tell you why they broke you. Sometimes their absence is all the explanation you need. You are allowed to walk away without the final scene. You are allowed to heal without the confession. You are allowed to close the book, even if they left it unfinished. Clarity says, I may not understand why they did it, but I understand I deserve better. That understanding is louder than any apology they'll never give. Mirror what they give you. Not because you're being petty, but because you're done overgiving. You're done writing essays for people who barely send you one-word replies. You're done calling first, showing up first, loving first, and then being treated like an afterthought. Matching energy isn't about revenge, it's about respect. You respect yourself enough to stop pouring into someone who keeps leaving your cup empty. We live in a world where people confuse kindness with weakness, where the more you give, the less they appreciate. So sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is reflect exactly what they're handing you. If they're distant, be distant. If they're cold, step back. If they treat you like a second option, stop making them a priority. Because the truth is, when you always show up for someone who barely shows up for you, you teach them that your presence is guaranteed. And nothing is more dangerous than becoming predictable in the life of someone who's inconsistent with you. A woman once dated a man who never texted good morning, but expected her to check in daily. She always sent long, sweet messages. He replied with emojis. She planned dates, he cancelled last minute. For months, she thought if she just loved harder, he'd wake up. Until one day, she stopped texting first. She stopped chasing. She mirrored him. Silence. And that silence taught her more than all his sweet nothings. Because when you mirror someone, you don't just reflect their actions, you reveal their intentions. If they care, they'll notice the shift. If they don't, they were never truly there. In friendships, it's the same game. There's that one friend who only calls when they need something. They go silent when life's good and reappear when the storm hits. You've been the therapist, the motivator, the fixer. But what happens when you stop fixing? When convenient, support you when it's trending, or respect you when you demand it. Mirror that, not out of bitterness, but out of balance. There's power in detaching emotionally while still being graceful. There's strength in saying, I'm done giving 100 to someone who won't even give 10. A girl once spent months crying over a friend who stopped calling. One day, she said, if you're okay with the silence, maybe I should be too. And from that moment on, she stopped over-explaining, stopped reaching out, stopped showing up where she wasn't seen. She mirrored what she was given. And what she saw was a door. One she walked through with her head held high. Sometimes mirroring someone's behavior is the only way to see their truth clearly. When you stop doing for others what they'd never do for you, their mask falls off. And while you don't pick up on the first ring, when you don't rearrange your world for people who never ask how yours is spinning, that's when you find out who's real. Mirror them, not to hurt, but to heal. Your peace deserves to be protected too. At work, there's always that colleague who takes credit for your ideas, interrupts you in meetings, and pretends they're superior. You've tried being diplomatic, you've swallowed pride, you've taken the high road so many times, it's worn out. Then one day, you decide, I'm not going to shrink so others can feel tall. You speak when they interrupt. You stop sharing ideas with someone who steals them. You match their assertiveness with confidence, not arrogance, just presence. You don't play their game, you just stop giving them the playbook. This isn't about turning cold, it's about becoming conscious. Conscious of where your energy flows and where it gets drained. If someone can only love you when might sting at first, it will set you free. You'll stop chasing, stop begging, stop proving your worth to people who were never worthy of your presence. Because love isn't proven through sacrifice alone. It's reflected in effort, in energy, in balance. So mirror what they give you, and watch who disappears when you stop overextending. Level up without making noise. Because real power doesn't announce itself, it shows up in silence and leaves an echo that speaks louder than any words ever could. In a world obsessed with broadcasting every move, every win, every upgrade, there is unmatched strength in the woman who chooses to evolve quietly. She doesn't need applause. She doesn't need approval. Her glow is not for validation. It's her declaration of independence. There's a difference between progress and performance. Most people are performing success, posting highlight reels, showing off things they barely own, relationships that are noise. You know why? Because peace is louder than attention. And glow-ups rooted in inner work don't need an audience. They create impact without a single word. A woman once lived in the shadow of her louder, more successful friends. They flaunted cars, vacations, designer bags. She stayed in her lane, didn't compete, just worked, just healed, just evolved. And when her time came, her success didn't need glitter. It stood on its own. Real, deep, unshakable. People didn't see her coming, but when she arrived, they couldn't ignore her. Your level up is not a show. It's a statement. And the most beautiful part? You don't owe anyone an explanation for your silence. You don't need to validate your success with captions or comments. You just need to keep watering your garden quietly and let the flowers speak for themselves. Because the woman who levels up in silence is the one who shocks the world without ever raising her voice. You've been quiet too long, not because you were weak, but because you were preparing. You were gathering your strength in the shadows, learning in silence, healing in places no one could see, and rising without validation. And now, it's time they see the storm your silence built. But here's the truth. This rise, this journey, this leveling up, it isn't for them. It's for you. Because when you finally learn to stop chasing respect from the wrong people, the right people start finding their way to you. You see, you don't have to scream to be heard. You don't have to beg to be valued. You don't have to explain your worth to people who only ever measured you through their insecurities. Sometimes the most revolutionary thing you can do is choose yourself. Choose your peace. Choose your silence. Choose your growth. Let them wonder how you're glowing without them. Let them question how you're thriving without noise. Because when you evolve, you don't just outgrow people, you outgrow their access to you. There comes a moment in every powerful woman's life where she realizes she was never hard to love. She was just trying to be loved by people who couldn't meet her depth. She was never too much. She was just too real for those addicted to shallow. And when that realization hits, that's when the queen within awakens. Not with fury, not with fire, but with focus, with clarity, with undeniable, unstoppable grace. That's not ego, that's elevation. You want to shine like the sun? First, you must burn like it. Those aren't just poetic words, they're truth. You had to go through the pain, the rejection, the silence, the dark nights where you questioned everything about your worth. And still, you stood up. Still, you moved forward. Still, you became her, the woman who didn't need saving. The woman who saved herself. Every tear you cried was not a sign of weakness. It was a seed. And today, you're blooming into something they can't touch. Because your growth is no longer for show. It's your sanctuary. You stop clapping for people who wouldn't clap for you. You stop shrinking in rooms that couldn't handle your presence. And now, you walk like you know who you are. Because you do. They say, success is the best revenge, but that's not true. Peace is. Silence is. Walking past someone who once broke you and smiling, not because you're pretending, but because you genuinely don't carry that weight anymore. That's the kind of power no one can steal from you.